Hey everybody, welcome to our 10th video in the series Intro to Charting in Excel for the Behavioral Sciences. We finished up in our last tutorial cleaning up some of the features that we need in our complex line chart. And what's really left to do is to make these lines, which are an assorted range of colors, all with the same marker. There's something that looks a little bit more research worthy. In our initial review, this is the example that we thought was more representative of what we'd see in a publication or a professional report. So we're going to try to recreate this chart from the same data, and this is kind of where we are now. I'm just going to pull this up here so it's a nice reference so that we can kind of see what they look like together. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add a legend so we actually know what's going on. So we could add a legend by using our plus icon up here, or if you don't like to right click, you could pick the chart, you can go up to design, I believe, and you see the same kind of plus button up here on add chart element, and we're just going to add a legend in. And for now we'll add at the bottom so it doesn't like cramp up too much of the chart space. Now here, if we look at this chart, sometimes it gets kind of hard to see. It might look especially hard to read in an article that's in black and white when all of the types of data have the same marker. So for now, we're gonna replicate the marker styles we have in our other one, in our example plot, in the plot we're currently working on. So let's start with the control condition. We're gonna select our control condition, and we're gonna make sure we select all the data by just seeing that there's a couple little points on top of them. And then we're going to right click, we're going to format that data. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to say, take this line, we want everything to be black and white. Let's keep the weight at 1. That looks pretty good. And for the marker, for our options, we're going to say use the built-in one, the circle. But let's bump up that size to about 7 so it's nice and pronounced. For the fill, we're going to have this one filled black and solid, like this example. And then for the border, we're going to make that black. So off the bat, that looks pretty close. That wasn't too bad because we didn't really have to change the marker type. In our next condition, our next type of data, the attention data, which is this orange guy, we're going to select it. It looks like we've selected them all. We're going to format that data. We're going to go to our paint options. And off the bat, we're going to actually, let's change our marker first. Now here we have attention. And that is a box filled white with a black border, and it's a square. So we'll select built-in. We'll use the square. Now the square is actually, it looks weird here. You see a lot of squares, but that's just because the fill is filled in. If you say no fill and no line, it'll actually be a little bit clearer because it's actually filling in that marker with a color that you can't really see. I know it'll be clear in a sec. But for now, we'll pick this square. We'll bump up our size to 7. We're not going to say no fill. We want to give it a solid fill, but a white solid fill. And we want to give it a border. We want to give that black line around the edge. The marker looks pretty good. Now we'll go with a line. We'll make that solid. and then we'll drop it down to 1 like before. So it looks pretty good. For our next one, we'll do the escape function, the demand series, and that says gray one. We're going to select this data. We're going to format the data series. When we go to our marker, we want to use this white filled triangle. So we'll do that. We'll bump up our size to 7. We're going to fill it, and we're going to fill it with white. That looks good. And for the border around it, we're going to keep that black. So it looks good. Now we're going to switch over to our line. We're going to make that black, same as before. I'm going to drop that down to 1. It's looking better. The next we're going to do our tangible condition, an access function, and that would be this orange guy up here. So we're going to right click on here, and this time we'll switch it up. We'll go to format, and we'll select from up here. This is all the elements in the table. We'll select the tangible, and we'll say format this. And that really just brings up the same menu, and that's just right here. Now for here, sometimes it's not super clear. Some of these figures like here, if they're kind of just like a line and not a shape, like an X, if you fill it in, it really gets drowned out by the color. So I think it's one of these, and I'm going to click this, and it'll make sense in a minute. I'm going to bump that to 7, and I'm going to say don't fill this. Now instead of seeing something white, we actually see that these figures now, if you zoom in, it actually looks like that little cross thing. Because before, if you would have told it to fill it in with a color, it just kind of gets washed out. But we'll say don't fill it. But for the borders, the lines in there, let's make those black. Alright, so that looks pretty good. We'll do the same thing for the line. And then we'll drop that to 1. Alright, and then we have one last series, which is our alone condition. And we'll format this. Now this one is a circle as well, but this is a white filled circle. So we'll fill it, we're going to fill it with white, but for the border around it, we'll keep that black. And then our line, we'll make that black, and then we'll keep the width to 1. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. This was our original chart, and for the most part, it's pretty much the same. I guess we could just copy our full axes title that we were trying to do in there. So now it's officially done. Let me bump that font down a little bit. So if you're following along, whoops. If you guys are following along, congratulations on putting together your first complex line chart. In our next series, we're going to be revisiting a bar chart, which is probably a little bit simpler, but that has its own type of styling and formatting that comes along that's a little bit different than standard line charts. So stay tuned, check the website, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you then.